All right, we will convene the meeting, call to order at 2:01. All of our commissioners are present except Maceo Rainey, and he told me earlier this week that he would be here today, and he sent me an email this morning saying that he was resigning. So, he's been at so few of our meetings, so I don't know whether it's a scheduling situation or what, but I emailed him at the same time I did the two of you, and he emailed me right back and said, I will be there. But then I got an email this morning said that he wanted to let me know that he was resigning. So I don't know whether it's a scheduled situation or what, but the statute specifically calls for somebody that's involved in education. So that'll be up to Mayor Perry to decide, because I'm pretty sure that's a mayoral appointment. I think it's 3 and 2. That's the way I remember it. And the educational appointment, I believe, is the mayor's.
He's mayor, yeah.
Is the mayor's appointment. So I'll make sure that he's aware of that. I also spoke to Gail Nylub about the liaison, and apparently with the change in officers at the council and looking over their assignments, they're not going to make those committee assignments until their next meeting, which is a week from Tuesday. So at the end of the month, we should know who our liaison is going to be, but they have not appointed a liaison yet. So we have 4 of us. We're obviously going to have a 5th. We can elect officers now, or we can put that off until we have a 5th member. It doesn't really matter to me. Whatever members of the board feel. I will mention that in doing this, I discovered that being secretary is a little bit more involved than just scribbling down a few notes, because that's why I did the agenda like this, because the agenda has to not only be prepared, but it has to be presented to the clerk's office. It has to be posted online and also on the bulletin board at City Hall. And then the minutes also, after they are approved, the minutes have to be prepared and then presented to the clerk's office also. So there's a little bit more involved than just scribbling down a few notes, but one of us will have to do that, let's put it that way. So I don't know, what's your pleasure? Do you want to elect officers now, or do you want to wait till we get a 5th member?
I would like to see a 5th member come in, because Mr. President, there's actually no way that I could possibly take any kind of office, because my plate's very full right now.
I understand. So, and that's part of the difficulty. Part of the difficulty we've had is that all of us are busy enough that it's difficult to find the time, because we've agreed that some of these things are extremely important, but we've had problems even getting a quorum in some of our meetings for that reason. So I think we all want to be involved, but you're right. That's one of the reasons why, and Connie and I were just discussing it. And first of all, let's mention, I welcome our newest member. Connie, thank you for being here. Thank you for agreeing to serve. And we're happy to have you with us.
Good, I'm glad to be here.
We were talking about the Community Enrichment Corporation. That's one of the reasons why I asked not to be appointed to another term with the Enrichment Corporation, is because of various responsibilities, including my wife's health and a few other things. So, but the Veterans Commission was important enough to me, and the mayor kind of twisted my arm and said, I really would like for you to do this. So here we are. But let's wait until we can decide that now. It's a little out of order. We say future meeting dates and times under old business, but shall we meet again on, do you want to meet at 2 p.m. on Friday, the second Friday, or does anyone have a day or a date that's better? We talked about this last month. It doesn't matter to me. Steve, is there any time that's better for you?
No, Fridays would be okay. I adjusted my schedule a little bit at the first of the year, and some new things at my office, so I'll be a little bit freer on Fridays.
Okay. And Connie, you met Steve and Keith?
I did,
okay.
but I'm not familiar. Steve, where do you work?
I have an auto repair shop on the west side, Moore's Auto Repair.
Oh, yeah, okay. And then
I don't.
Are you retired?
Keith goofs off on a regular basis.
Yeah. He's officially retired. Okay, I just kind of...
Although it's boring, I'm probably going to pick up something to fill some time. But
yeah.
It's boring.
Well,
Well, if you want to be commission president, you.
There you go.
All right. We had no public, so we don't need public comment. Specifically with regard to the job fair, and we talked about that. I did speak, a couple of things I want to mention. As I mentioned, Maceo said he was resigning. I did speak to the personnel office here at City Hall about veterans, and veterans are given preference. In fact, what the person I spoke to actually quoted from the federal employment statute, but Rich Rosinski assured me the veterans are given preference in hiring at the county level as well. So that was a question we had at the last meeting, and I did check into that. And Keith, you had mentioned something about the list of veterans. So wasn't it you that mentioned that at the meeting?
Yes, I'm going to double check on it.
Okay,
It was supposed to be emailed to me and I haven't
that's fine.
gotten
That's
it
fine.
yet.
And also, we talked about the veterans officer that's at the DAV. Have you found out any more about that, Steve? Or
Yes, John Rodriguez, he's a service officer with the DAV nationally or locally, and he works out of Chicago, but he shows up the first Wednesday of every month at the DAV, 7 o'clock in the evening. But talking to him and asking him to do an interview, he's really restricted by the DAV, by the national, about being able to be interviewed like that.
okay,
But we do have a service officer that I did talk to at the DAV. His name's John Tharp. He is willing to go on your show sometime.
terrific.
And
If you will,
state.
if you ask him to call me or get a number so I can call him, whichever way makes the most sense, and we'll pick out a date.
Okay.
We can either do it at 8:15 when I do my regular interviews, or we can record it and play it back during that time period, whatever works. But I'm going to make myself a note, first Wednesday at 7 o'clock, so that I will go to the DAV next month. Obviously, they didn't meet on the first Wednesday this month because it was New Year's Day.
Right.
So, but
And also with this service officer coming to the DAV, most veterans, they can go to the county service officer, they can go up to them and say, and they'll say, this, you can take this paper, this paper, this paper. But you go to this service officer, a guy getting out of the military, he don't know what his benefits are.
right.
So this service officer can say, well, you got this coming to you, you got this coming to you, you got this coming to you. You can apply for this and this and this. And it's much more one-on-one than, just going to a county service officer.
How does this group fit in with Joe Golick over there at the county service? I mean, does Michigan City have, if I understand correctly, Joe covers all of
Yes,
Newport County,
yes.
including Michigan City and everything?
We're not taking away from the county service office by no means. County service office, that's a big deal.
Right, exactly.
A big deal.
Yeah,
But if you're going, if you're disabled, if you've been injured in the military, mentally or physically, this would be the guy to go see. Because there's been guys that's been hanging around for 20 years trying to get benefits, and going through all the paperwork and everything.
I spent 10 years of my husband's last 10 years trying to get through the paperwork for
Yes, ma'am.
disability, and he finally was given 90%. But it took years
Yes, ma'am.
for us to get, and of course he couldn't, he really couldn't do much, at all, but it was just unbelievable, So, yeah, that's why I really wanted to participate in this board, because I think there's so much of a need.
Thank you.
the county funds the veteran service officers, and I did ask Rich Rosinski, and of course he's on the commission now, not the council, but it was his understanding that the council did fund 2 days a week in Michigan City again this year. So there is a part-time, George Watkins, a part-time veteran service officer at the courthouse in Michigan City, 2 days a week.
George what?
George Watkins.
Okay.
He was the veteran service officer until he was ready to retire, and then he brought Joe Golick on, and that's the way the part-time office in Michigan City got started. Up until that time, there only was an
Right.
office in LaPorte.
Yeah.
So that Joe was going to be 2 days a week in Michigan City, and George was going to be full-time. And then when George retired, then Joe was going to move into LaPorte. Well, the need was there and the demand was there, so they kind of switched positions, and Joe became full-time and George became part-time,
Yeah.
and that's the way they are now. I understand there is a young person, Rich Brzezinski told me, that they've talked to that seems to be interested, and I think, I could be mistaken, but I think they said it was a young veteran who was declared 100% disabled, and that person was interested in possibly becoming the part-time veteran service officer. But it's still a work in progress, but we do still have a part-time in Michigan City, so.
And that would be great because some of the veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan would probably be able to relate more to a
better.
younger one
I agree.
than
I agree.
one of us old dogs.
Oh, absolutely.
And the idea of forming this commission actually happened a little over a year ago, and it was the mayor and the city council, because they were concerned that the veteran service officer was going to be withdrawn from Michigan City.
Right.
So as a result of that, that's why they created this Veterans Commission, just to see if there was something the city could do to be of assistance to veterans. So that's kind of
Well,
how it happened.
that's my next question, if you guys could kind of bring me up to speed with the ultimate goal or what
Well,
this
we've been-
commission basically is.
We've been kind of struggling with that a little bit. The statute says the commission will meet quarterly, but we didn't feel that was often enough. So we scheduled monthly meetings during 2019, but several of those months we didn't have a quorum. So for various reasons, the liaison from the city, Candace Silvas, had to drop off the city council when she moved. We had one commission member leave, and it took a little while to be replaced, and just various obstacles, plus our schedules. Steve had some health issues, I had some health issues, I was in the hospital for 5 days. So there were a variety of things, and so we went a few months where we didn't have a quorum or we didn't have a meeting at all. So we're kind of feeling through that now. One of the things, we met with the two veteran service officers last spring, wasn't it? I think maybe the March or the April meeting, something like that, about almost a year ago. And one of the things they suggested was it would be helpful to them if we could find a way to compile a list of veterans who live in Michigan City, because there really isn't a comprehensive list of that. You can find out county-wide to some extent, but veterans don't have to register anywhere necessarily. There are veterans that are involved in a lot of the organizations, DAV, American Legion. There are veterans like me that are not involved in any of them. So it just depends upon, if you're a member of the DAV of the American Legion, you're identified as a veteran. If you're somebody like me that's not, maybe
So you don't have an accurate.
maybe no one even knows that I am or cares. But so it's more difficult. So that was one of the things that Joe and George suggested. So we've been working with that a little bit. We talked to some of the local organizations, and we thought we could get some lists from them. Keith is working on possibility that someone has compiled a list of Michigan City veterans that's available locally. So we're working on that. And the other thing is that through a series of conversations, we determined that one of the goals we could have for this year would be to see if we could put together a combination job fair and information session where veterans could come and talk to employers about possible job opportunities, or they could get information about things from Swanson Center to Keys to Hope to maybe housing or employment or transportation or those
Like a
kinds of things.
general,
Yes.
what's going on
Exactly.
for the veterans,
And Congressman Visklowski's office has offered to help us with that, and the Michigan City Chamber has offered to help us with that. But again, we've needed to get our own ducks in a row, and
I think that's a great idea.
well, we all agree with that, and
Yeah.
that is something we want to do sometime this year.
So that's the goal this year.
That is the primary target this year, is to put that together, and it's I have a feeling it's going to be a lot more involved than it just sounds like or seems like when you start getting involved in something like that. But we think it's really something that will be beneficial and is necessary. So
Piece of cake.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Guess who gets to chair that one?
10 years I worked with those people. It's like, well, I wasn't sure, when I was sort of asked to consider this board, and but then as I thought about it, and I think of all the things that are possibilities for veterans. You know, I mean, it's just so much that could be done. So I was
I agree.
excited about it.
Well, and that's the idea. All of us have various connections and connections with veterans and feel for veterans issues, but we all bring that to the table. So if you or Keith or Steve or I have suggestions as to things we should look at or things we should consider that would be beneficial to veterans, that's what we're here for. So it's primarily an idea. And we had, as Kevin mentioned, we had 2 people show up last month that just heard about the veterans meeting and, like you, wanted to find out what we're doing. Right. So we actually encourage more of that. If there's veterans or people that are interested in veterans issues that want to come, I've actually had one of the county commissioners and some other people say, well, I happened to see that your meeting was on ALCO, so I watched it on TV just to bring myself up to date about what the Veterans Commission was doing. So if there are people that have ideas or people that have suggestions, that's what we're here for. We're more than happy, because that's what we want to do, is see if we can, whatever assistance we can provide for veterans.
Has the report, has Joe and them, have they indicated wanting to be a participant in that, or is that?
Well, we developed this idea after we spoke to them, and we actually talked about it in our meeting in January that we want to bring them back again. So I don't know whether that should be my invitation. I don't think it matters. Any of us can, but we know we're going to meet at March, the second Friday in March at 2 p.m. in this room. If any of you want to call Joe and find out if he and or George or the 2 of them are available, that's fine. If you'd like me to do it, I'll do it. But I think we ought to see if they're available at the March meeting and bring them up to date on what we're doing and get some input from them again too. So
because if I understand correctly, LaPorte doesn't really do anything like that either. Am I correct?
I believe that's true.
So actually, this, we could initiate that, and I would imagine we could get possibly a lot of support from LaPorte itself, and then combine the 2, and then it really would be quite a ordeal, to present. So when are you thinking of this? I mean, are you thinking spring?
Oh, you mean for the job fair? We haven't determined a specific time yet. We need to think about things such as location. I'm sure the local veterans organizations would allow us to use their facilities, but we want to make sure we have a room that's large enough. For example, we want to make sure that we have a room that's on a bus route or close to it, so the veterans can get there.
Sure.
There's a lot of
logistics.
There's a lot, basically the logistics, and we haven't gotten into that. We were going to get into it in January, and again, we were short a member, so we thought we will wait until you come on board.
Yeah.
And we also have our liaison from the city council. Well,
So
unfortunately, now we're a
that.
membership. No, that won't be appointed until their meeting on the 27th. So.
I think it's a great idea. I think probably the more we can get involved with it, I think would be very beneficial to.
Well, we haven't discussed it, but I know that Blue Chip is very much supportive of veterans as well, and supportive of veterans activities. And my guess is,
and Michigan City in general.
Well, yeah, I know, but I'm talking specifically about this. If we wanted to consider holding it at Blue Chip in one of their meeting rooms, even if it's the second floor room of the pavilion as opposed to over in the event center, I think we could probably arrange that with very little difficulty. So we need to talk about the logistics.
Sure.
How large a place do we need? What do we need to accommodate in terms of transportation, hours? Are we going to make this available to veterans and then the general public later, or simply limit it to veterans? I mean, there's a lot of those kinds of detailed issues that we need to work out. And then I can talk to the chamber, I can talk to Pete Pisklowski's office, and this would be the year to do it since he's leaving office at the end of the year. So I won't have that contact at the end of the year.
He is so good about helping.
Yeah. Well, I went to a public meeting and I happened to mention it, that we were considering that last fall, and someone from his office was there and actually called me. He actually called me. He had his chief of staff in Washington call me from Washington a few weeks later and say, I just want to make sure that you know that if you need help, that we'll do this. So I've known him for almost 30 years.
Right.
And so,
if we start out with the veterans, I'm sure that Chamber of Commerce, after that can help pick up as
Exactly.
far as opening it up to the public.
Yes.
So,
And again, that was the same thing. Katie Eaton was there at that meeting, and she came up to me afterwards and said, if the chamber can help in any way, we'll be happy to help.
Yeah.
So we do have some assistance out there too, but again, we need to sit down and start working out some of the logistics, and I think we need to have 5 members of the commission to do that. So
Right. Mhm.
I'm going to call Chris Jagelski in the mayor's office here this afternoon or Monday and make sure that the mayor is aware, one, that we will have an appointment, and two, that there is that requirement that it be, I'd have to read the statute to say exactly what it says, whether it says secondary education or higher education or what it says, but there is an educational component of that particular appointment, so need to know what it says. But anyway, that's kind of just a thumbnail of where we are and what we've been doing and that sort of thing. I didn't put it on the agenda, but we do need to approve the minutes of the
It says higher education, Ron.
that's what I thought. We need to approve the December meeting so I can turn them into the,
so approved.
okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, changes, approval, additions, subtractions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved, and I can sign them and turn them in at the clerk's office on my way out. All right, commissioner comment. Connie, you have any other comments you'd like to make?
I actually just have a couple questions, so we'll do
Sure.
that. So the future meeting dates we've decided are going to remain on Friday.
We're gonna do, at least for the next one, my thought was that if 2 o'clock on the second Friday is good for everyone, we'll keep doing that. If there's a better time that will accommodate people more, then we'll do that. So it's just a matter, because we can meet anytime. We can meet in the afternoon, we can meet in the evening, we can meet weekends or whatever. So it's basically what makes the most sense in terms of the 5 of us. So,
I would like to get a specific time and day because I'm on other boards.
Yeah.
And,
well, for now, we're going to be
Okay.
the second Friday at 2
and
p.m. in this
that
room.
works for me. That
Okay,
works.
good.
And then we are going to be, we need one more person on the board,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
Yes.
So that's going to be a mayoral.
That's the educational.
And that will be a mayoral.
Correct.
Dwayne has to appoint him.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay, and then, I guess that's it. I just want to make sure I was clear on.
Sure.
And if your other boards conflict with that, being as how this is a newer board,
Yeah,
we can adjust.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. We want to make sure that it's convenient for everybody, because we have as many members as here at every meeting as possible.
actually, it's easier for me to know it specifically, and then
Right.
I
But
maneuver
next month when we're
around,
talking, we're discussing,
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
gonna work for everybody.
Yeah,
Please feel free to bring that up.
yeah, okay, sounds good.
Anything else, Keith, for you?
Not for me.
Steve?
No, sir, I have nothing at this time.
And nor do I. So we will meet again, as it said, the next meeting of the Veterans Commission, 2 p.m. on, I put Friday, January 10th. I meant to put the February date in there. I said I did this earlier today. So
What day is it? February?
that'd be the second Friday.
Let me see.
Yeah.
That would be the 14th.
Oh, Valentine's Day, how about that?
So I got to correct the minutes already. All right, if there's no other business to come before the commission, we're adjourned at 2:25 p.m.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we are adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.